Pleasure.
Okay, so the next topic is, are you a first-time home buyer? And if you are, here are the 7 mistakes first-time home buyers make. So if you're a first-time home buyer, or you're, starting to look, or anywhere in the real estate market at all, you're going to want to hear this. So number 1, giving up before you even start, which is for Brenda, who said she needs a crash. Brenda, sometimes you can't afford it. So what they're talking about is just assuming that you can't afford to get into the market, that you can't buy a home, and you continue renting instead. So sometimes, you know what, maybe you should speak to a professional and see what they think and how. And sometimes talking to somebody up front, even if you don't feel like you're ready, it's that person can help you get on track and make the right moves toward being able to get into your own home. So I think it's important to put it out there to a professional, whether a mortgage broker would be, I guess, ideal in that situation. Next one is number 2, making the right offer. So when you do finally are able to get in the market and you're making an offer, you want to make sure that you got all the facts and the information on that home. You want to know what's going on in the area, what has went on in the area, what are the houses listed for, what are they selling for, what are the condition of the home, what is listing versus selling prices. You want to know everything. So you want to deal and ask your real estate agent for all those facts. So when you go in and you make the offer, you got the best possible chance of getting that home over any other offers. Number 3, misunderstanding your budget. Now this one here is not understanding the costs associated with buying a home. I think sometimes when people buy a home and then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, they're like shell shocked because they got all these extra expenses that they weren't really looking into. Even like closing costs for the home. You need at least between 1 to 2% set aside of the purchase for that. You got heat, hydro, all these things, taxes. Maybe you want to rent a room when you first get in. Closing costs, which I already talked about. So I don't want to spend too much time on them because we're going to talk about them after. Number 4, failing to prepare. Once again, we're talking about setting aside 2 to 4% of your budget for maybe you want to do an inspection before you do an offer on the place. There are people that do that. When they go out, they do a showing, they know they want the place. You can't do any, well, the conditions are coming back now to the market, but when we're in the heated market, you can't do any conditions. You got to go in firm. So some people will opt to book a 2-hour appointment if the listing representative will let them. And what they do is they bring in a appraiser and a home inspector, and they go in and they look through the property. They get the results. They know what's going on in it before they even do an offer. And also you got to take into account that after you buy a home, there's always little things in that home that you want to change, or it might be little issues. So you need to set aside a little money. Don't buy the house and have nothing in your pocket. What we like to call house rich and cash poor. Number 5, skipping the inspection once again. Inspection is crucial. I want to put out there that, actually I'll wait until the end and do it. Number 6, not using a broker. So what they're talking about here is sometimes people like to go to the listing agent to buy their home, and this article is suggesting that you get your own buyer broker agent to help you. At least then you got someone who's totally in your pocket working for only you. And number 7, searching for perfect. Oh my gosh, we're all guilty of that. When we go out and look for a home, we're looking for perfect. We walk in that home and we're looking for everything to be exactly the way we want it, and it's almost not possible because the house wasn't built for you. Unless you're building a custom home, you're not going to get everything you want. You're going to have to subside with some things. So maybe the kitchen is not exactly where you want it. Maybe it's not as big as you want it, but you got the backyard, you got the extra bathrooms upstairs. So, when you search for perfect, and I've had clients that search for perfect and they're still searching 2 years later. So it's a tough one. And sometimes when you are searching for perfect, you miss the boat and you never buy. So know that there are some things that you have to let go of. I mean, I don't want to be the one out there saying that, but sometimes there is. And I also want to put a disclaimer now that this is an article that I'm reading. It's not an article that I produced, so I don't necessarily agree or 100% with everything in here. I think there's different ways to approach everything. But I think these 7 steps are a good basis if you're looking to, and you're a first-time home buyer. But I would say the top, if there was a number 8, and I'd put it in number 1 position, would be get a real estate agent and get a mortgage broker. Get both in your pocket to help you to make sure that when you do finally step out there and you buy that home, you're not regretting it 6 months later. So, can anybody relate to any of these mistakes? Have you been in the market and you're like, yeah, I've done that. Yeah, I've made that mistake. Write in, let us know. Give us your story. We'd love to hear it.
Mm-hmm. What I'm curious about is like the skipping inspection, because the market recently has been pretty crazy. There hasn't been too many clauses for inspections. It's pretty much been just, I'll buy the house now. Here's the money. Please take my offer. And people have been kind of skipping over that. So I'd be curious to know, like, of all these transactions that have happened, and say in the last 6 months or so, how many times that come back to bite you, like, or bite people? Because again, you never know. Like, and depending on, not everyone is knowledgeable about the things in the home, whether like the roof or like there's little things that you won't know unless you're trained to see that. So I don't know offhand, but I would just be kind of curious to see how many people are kind of looking back now and saying, "Oh, I know I wanted the house, but we really should have gotten that inspection." So
every single one of them. Every single one of them, every house, like even our house, you've been in it for years, you spent money on it, and there's problems, and you got to get things fixed, and so no house is perfect, and there was a lot. Like I just wanted to talk all the way through yours. There was so much.
So you were biting your tongue?
Yeah. So let's go back to number 1: giving up before you even start. That unfortunately now, as Brenda had said, is not something that she wants to do. It's just that the market has outpaced her. It's a combination of anytime that Brenda, you will see in the future, or any of your kids see in the future that the government goes rogue. Anytime we'll have like a Liberal or NDP government for sure, and then they start going rogue with spending, you're going to experience inflation. And so things are going to get more expensive, and then they're going to get too expensive, and then we're going to experience either a crash or a recession, or we're going to experience something, because that kind of growth is just not healthy for anybody. As we know, and as you definitely know, Brenda, at one point there was an article when we have an overall company meeting every Monday. And one of the things that was brought up in that meeting was a gentleman who, at the time, I think he was a mail clerk working a room, and he wanted to buy a house, and the house across the street came for sale. It was 200 and something thousand, and he could have bought it, but he said he wanted to wait and get, a better house later on. And he became a lawyer and a partner in the law firm, and now he makes a lot of money, and now he qualifies to buy the house across the street that's $1 million and something. So he does qualify for a lot more money, but it's the same house. So, so isn't that interesting? And so I really sympathize with you, Brenda, and it's really hard. Basically right now, what we just experienced was a transfer of wealth. The people who were in the market, those people were the lucky ones, and they're on the other side of the fence. And the people who weren't, who were renting and wanted to get in the market, those are the unlucky people, and this is the way in which horrible things sometimes work. Our government, first of all, went and attacked first-time home buyers when they said that we're going to put the stress test in. and you have to qualify for how many percent above, 2% above what you're buying. And what happened there was they wiped out 30% of the marketplace. As a matter of fact, it was more aggressive than 2% at the time when they did it, especially for the first-time home buyers. It was 2% for the people putting 20% down. First-time home buyers, it was like they had to qualify at 5-point-something%. So they were struggling to get into the marketplace, and then all of a sudden they couldn't qualify. So the government sort of kicked out 30% of the marketplace. They spent money like crazy, caused inflation to happen, and now being able to afford the house is really, really difficult. So I feel bad. That was number one. Did you want to comment on number one? I wanted to
No.
talk about a couple of these.
You're good,
No,
you're
keep
good.
going. Making the right offer. Well, obviously, I think Jackie was right.